So if you think about customer discovery, it's probably easier to think about it as having three parts. One is the preparation you do before you leave the building. The second part is what are you supposed to be doing outside the building? And third is when you get all this data and you're back in your building, so now what do we do and what are we supposed to be building and how do we kind of prioritize these features? So let's take a look at some of the things you do before you leave the building. The first thing is you want to pre-plan who you're going to talk to. It might just seem easy that you wake up in the morning and kind of go through your Rolodex or your contact list or your Facebook friends, but actually a little thinking beforehand might come in handy. So the things we suggest is we'd like you to come up with 100 names. 100 names? Well, you might not know 100 people. Well, it's kind of easy if you really think about using the world of LinkedIn and Facebook and Jigsaw and all your social network. If you're in a business-to-business sale, you actually want to find people in companies that are close to the ones you initially want to sell to. And if you're doing a web or mobile app for consumers, you want to find, again, people kind of in the customer segment, your initial thoughts are the ones you're going to go after. In business-to-business sales, your first instinct might be, I'm going to get to the CEO of the company, or I'm going to talk to the CIO, or I'm going to talk to who the most important person will ultimately be to buy my product. Because, gee, on day one, I think I got it nailed, so why don't I just start there? If you really think about what we've been teaching, you actually are more than likely wrong. So you don't want to start with the highest ranking person in a company. You want to start in the middle of the company so you can actually learn about how wrong you are. Because one of the interesting observations is you never get multiple meetings with a C-level executive, particularly if you are wrong. And so you want to practice doing customer discovery in a corporation with mid-level management to make sure you understand the problem and that your solution actually matches what they're looking for before you move up. The second part is if you're doing consumer sales, it might be intuitively obvious to you is, oh, let's test our app on the web and let's just send out surveys. How easy can that be? It turns out customer discovery doesn't work for SurveyMonkey or email. What you really want is face-to-face data before you do anything. And by face-to-face, I mean either Skype or in-person interviews. And the phrase I use is you ought to be able to see someone's pupils dilate when you say something exciting. You ought to see their breathing increase. Because if you can't see that, watch their body language or hear their intonation, you really don't know whether you've said something interesting or insulting or better or worse. Also, you miss those questions at the end. Just as a trick, by the way, in pre-planning, the last question I always ask is, what should have I asked you? And sometimes that last question gets you another 35 minutes of conversation in a direction you didn't even intend. Try doing that in SurveyMonkey and email. It doesn't mean that you can't use surveys later on to correlate your in-person findings with thousands or tens of thousands of people, but first you need to get the richest data experience you can. So in pre-planning, you need to actually think through your contacts, understand whether you're going to B2B or B2C, and start setting up interviews. By the way, for me, when I was an engineer, the scariest thing was to pick up a telephone and actually call someone. In fact, I used to stare at the phone long enough to maybe I could get it to dial itself. But eventually I learned a very cute line which seems to get people's attention. I would call someone up, I would wait till after 5 p.m., calling into a corporation, making sure their secretary or admin was gone, and just say, hi, my name is Steve, I got your name from, and I would make it up, who said you were the smartest person in this industry, and they said you really had valuable advice to offer. I'm not trying to sell you something. Boy, you wouldn't believe if somebody told you you were the smartest person in the industry that, like, most people won't hang up on you. They'll at least, and if you say, and I just need 20 minutes of your time, no one's calendar actually goes as short as 20 minutes of your time, and they'll actually give you a half hour or an hour. And so quite often you'll actually get a meeting with people you least expect. So that's the beginning of pre-planning your trip outside the building.